Life had always followed a predictable rhythm. Every morning, I woke up to the sound of my alarm buzzing insistently on my nightstand. The same routine, the same cycle. The smell of coffee brewing in the kitchen, the sound of my children rushing to get ready for school, the hurried goodbyes exchanged at the door. Then the drive to work. Familiar roads, familiar faces. A job I had loved once but had now become just another task to complete. I was a wife, a mother, a teacher. These roles defined me, gave structure to my days, but somewhere along the way I had lost the sense of wonder that had once filled my heart. I had grown up in the church, surrounded by the teachings of faith, but as the years passed, my connection to God became something distant, almost abstract. I still believed, of course, but in the way that one believes in the sun behind the clouds, aware of its existence, but not always feeling its warmth. The weight of daily responsibilities often left me drained. I had 3 teenage children, each with their own struggles, dreams, and expectations. My husband, a kind and steady presence, worked long hours to provide for our family. Our conversations had dwindled into logistical discussions: who was picking up whom, what bills were due, what errands needed to be run. We loved each other, but the passion, the spark, had been buried under layers of exhaustion and routine. At school, I poured myself into my students, trying to make history come alive for them. I watched their eyes glaze over as I spoke of past civilizations, revolutions, and wars. Sometimes I wondered if my words made any difference at all. Teaching had once felt like a calling, a way to inspire young minds, but lately, it had become just another obligation. I could feel something missing, but I couldn't quite name it. A hollowness, an emptiness that no amount of productivity could fill. The days blurred together one after another, until weeks became months and months became years. I was moving forward, but I wasn't living. I was merely existing. I had moments where I longed for something more. I would catch glimpses of it in the small things. The warmth of the sun on my skin during a morning drive. The laughter of my children echoing through the house. The rare moments of stillness before the world demanded my attention again. But those moments were fleeting, swallowed by the constant noise of responsibility. Faith had become something I kept on a shelf, something I would reach for in times of crisis, but never truly carry with me. I would sit in church on Sundays, listening to sermons that spoke of surrender, of trust, of divine purpose. And yet I never surrendered. I never truly trusted. My prayers were rushed, my faith passive. It was easier that way, easier to go through the motions than to dive into the depths of something that might demand real change. And so, I remained on autopilot, managing, juggling, surviving, until the day everything changed. If you've ever felt like you were just going through the motions, you're not alone. This journey is about discovering something greater, something beyond the daily routine. I'd love for you to be part of this community, to walk this path with us. Subscribe, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. October 22nd, 2022. A date forever burned into my memory. It had started like any other day, rushed, chaotic, filled with the familiar pressures of life. But I had no idea that before the sun would set, everything I knew would shatter in an instant. I was running late for my youngest son's soccer game. My mind was tangled in a dozen worries at once. Unfinished lesson plans, the groceries I had forgotten to pick up, an argument I had with my daughter that morning. Guilt gnawed at me. She had stormed off, rolling her eyes as she grabbed her backpack, and I hadn't even had time to fix it before she left. I told myself I'd apologize later, after the game, after everything slowed down. But life never waits for us to catch up. I hurried to my car, juggling my purse, a half-empty coffee cup, and my phone, which buzzed relentlessly with notifications I had no time to check. The autumn air was crisp, carrying the scent of fallen leaves and rain-soaked pavement, but I barely noticed. My mind was elsewhere, on the road, on my son waiting for me, on the endless responsibilities pressing in from every direction. As I drove, the rain drizzled lightly against the windshield, turning the road into a slick, glassy surface. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, my knuckles white with tension. My phone buzzed again. Instinctively, I glanced down. A text. I don't even remember what it said. It didn't matter. In that single second, the world unraveled. The deafening screech of tires, the blinding glare of headlights, the sharp metallic crunch of metal colliding with metal. My car spun violently, the force whipping my body sideways as the seatbelt cut into my chest. The world outside blurred into streaks of gray and white as the car hydroplaned across the wet pavement. I remember the feeling of weightlessness, the way time seemed to slow as if the universe had pressed pause. Then, the impact. A crushing force, a brutal jolt that rattled my bones. Glass shattered, my body jerked forward, my vision exploding into darkness and light all at once. And then, silence. Not the kind of silence that comes when a room is empty, but an eerie, all-consuming void. No pain, no fear, just an absence. As if in that moment I had slipped out of time itself. I was no longer in my car, no longer on the road. I was somewhere else. If you believe in the power of faith and miracles, type Amen in the comments to receive blessings. Let's fill this space with light and encouragement. Also, let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to send extra prayers your way. There was no pain, no fear, no weight of broken bones or the crushing impact of metal against flesh. The chaos, the noise, the sheer terror of those last moments, gone. In their place was something entirely different. At first, there was only light, not the harsh, artificial glow of hospital fluorescents or the piercing glare of headlights on wet pavement. This light was alive. It surrounded me, embraced me, seeped into my very being like warmth on a cold day. It wasn't just something I saw. It was something I felt, a peace so deep, so consuming that it left no room for confusion or distress. I tried to move, but it was as if I had no weight, no body to carry. Yet I was fully aware, more aware than I had ever been. Every sense was heightened, attuned to the very fabric of this place. I wasn't just standing in this light. I was part of it. Then, something shifted. The light, though still present, seemed to part, revealing a vast expanse unlike anything I had ever imagined. The sky, if it could even be called that, was not empty but filled with colors beyond human comprehension. Hues I had no name for danced and intertwined, moving with a rhythm that felt almost sacred. A symphony of sound surrounded me, though I could see no source. It was as if the very air hummed with melodies too perfect, too pure to belong to this world. The ground beneath me wasn't like the earth I had known. It shimmered, pulsing softly with light, as if it too was alive. With every step, or perhaps it was merely the thought of movement, I felt lighter, unburdened, as though I had been stripped of every worry, every sorrow, every weight I had ever carried. For the first time in my life, I felt truly whole. And then, I wasn't alone. A presence so powerful yet so gentle emerged from the brilliance ahead. My heart, or whatever part of me still carried emotion, knew before my mind could comprehend. It was him, Jesus. He walked toward me, though he didn't seem to move in the way we do on earth. His radiance wasn't just light. It was love itself, pouring forth in waves, washing over me like a tide of infinite grace. My knees buckled beneath me. "Rachel," he said, his voice. It wasn't just something I heard, it resonated through my very soul. It was like hearing every truth I had ever longed for, every answer to every question I had ever asked. "You have come home." Tears streamed down my face, though I wasn't even sure I had a body anymore. All I knew was that in his presence there was no fear, no pain, no doubt. Only love. A love so vast, so overwhelming, that I could hardly contain it. Am I dead? My voice trembled, though there was no air, no lungs, no breath. Jesus smiled, the kind of smile that holds the weight of eternity. "You are here because it is not yet your time," he said. "But there is much I need to show you before you return." He extended his hand, and without hesitation I reached for him. The moment our hands touched, a warmth unlike anything I had ever known surged through me. It wasn't just comfort, it was understanding, clarity, the unraveling of every fear, every doubt. I felt as though I had spent my whole life looking through a dim, clouded glass, and now, for the first time, I could see. As he led me forward, the light around us grew even brighter, enveloping everything in its radiance. And in that moment, I knew what I was about to witness would change everything. This journey is just beginning, and I'd love for you to walk this path with us. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments. This is more than just a story. It's a reminder of the love and presence that surrounds us all. Let's grow together in faith. The moment I placed my hand in his, the world around me dissolved into light. Not the kind of light that blinds or overwhelms, but something softer, deeper, alive with warmth and purpose. It moved like liquid gold, pulsing with a rhythm I could feel in my very being. Then, just as suddenly as it had surrounded me, the light parted. What lay before me was unlike anything I had ever seen. We stood in an open expanse, vast and endless, yet somehow intimate and sacred. The air itself shimmered with hues I had no name for, colors beyond the spectrum of human sight. It felt like standing at the edge of eternity, in a place untouched by time. Jesus turned to me, his eyes filled with something beyond human expression. Love, wisdom, eternity itself. "You are here to understand," he said. "You have seen the world through the limits of time, but now you will see as I see." As he spoke, the very fabric of reality shifted around us. It was as if we were no longer bound by linear time. Scenes unfolded before me, moving not in sequence but all at once, yet I could comprehend them perfectly. I was seeing history, not as a series of events, but as a living, breathing tapestry. I saw the beginning, not just the first chapter of human history, but the very moment when existence itself was spoken into being. A force beyond words, beyond description, commanded the void to awaken. Light burst forth, vibrant and uncontainable. Galaxies swirled into formation, stars ignited in a divine dance of creation. The universe breathed its first breath, and I could feel it, as if I were standing within the heartbeat of God himself. Then, the earth. I saw waters ripple into motion, mountains rise, trees stretch toward the heavens. Every detail was deliberate, every design imbued with purpose. It wasn't chaos, it was love in its purest form, taking shape in creation. I saw the first man, the first woman formed not just from the dust but from the very breath of God. They were radiant, whole, walking in perfect communion with their Creator. There was no fear, no shame, only harmony. Then, the fall. I watched as darkness crept into the perfection of Eden. A choice, a moment of doubt, a whisper that led to separation. It wasn't just the breaking of a rule, it was the severing of something sacred. The weight of it pressed against my soul, a sorrow unlike anything I had ever known. Humanity had stepped away from the divine embrace, and the consequences rippled through time. Jesus stood beside me, his expression filled with both sorrow and love. "This is where it began," he said, "but it is not where it ends." The scenes shifted again, and I saw the descendants of Adam and Eve, nations forming, generations rising and falling, the flood, the covenant with Abraham, the rise of kings and prophets. Each moment was intricately connected, a story woven with purpose, though humanity often failed to see it. Then, my eyes were drawn to one moment, one life. I saw him, Jesus, walking among the people, touching the sick, restoring the broken. Love incarnate. I saw the moment he was betrayed, the agony of the cross, the unbearable weight of the world's sin pressing upon him. But even in that suffering, there was no hatred in his eyes, only love, only the certainty of redemption. I wanted to weep, but I had no body to weep with. The depth of what I was witnessing was overwhelming, too vast to fully grasp. Then he turned to me again. "Rachel," he said, "you have seen how humanity was lost. Now, you will see how they are found." His hand was still in mine, steady and strong, and as the next vision unfolded, I knew that what he was about to reveal would change me forever. As Jesus held my hand, the vision shifted once more, and I felt as if I were being pulled through time itself, not in a way that was disorienting, but with a deep sense of purpose, as if I were meant to see, to understand. Before me stretched an ancient landscape, vast and untamed. The sky hung low, painted in the deep hues of a setting sun, casting golden light over endless rolling hills. A river snaked through the valley, its waters shimmering like molten glass. I could hear voices in the distance, laughter, songs, prayers spoken in languages I did not recognize, yet somehow understood. We were standing at the crossroads of civilization, in a time long before the world I knew had taken shape. Jesus pointed ahead, and as I followed his gaze, I saw figures appearing, at first shadows, then full and vibrant, as if history itself were waking before my eyes. Tribes moving across the land, families building homes, nations being born. I could see their struggles, their triumphs, their fears. Then I noticed something, thin strands of light weaving through them, connecting each person, each event. It was a pattern, a tapestry being woven, though the people themselves did not seem to notice it. "What is this?" I asked, unable to look away from the intricate web forming before me. "This," Jesus said, "is what humanity does not see." I watched as the threads of light intertwined, stretching across generations. I saw a man leaving his homeland, his faith unwavering despite uncertainty. Abraham. I saw his descendants growing into a great nation, struggling, failing, rising again. I saw kings rise and fall, prophets crying out in the wilderness, their words echoing through time. Every action, every decision was part of something greater, something unseen by those who lived through it. The pattern of history was not random, it was intentional, purposeful, and yet so many were blind to it. They believe they are lost, Jesus continued, his voice carrying both sorrow and hope. They see only their suffering, their separation. They do not see how I have been with them, guiding them, calling them back. The vision shifted again. The thread of light moved forward, weaving through history until it reached a single moment. A child born in Bethlehem, cradled in a manger. The pattern exploded with light, radiating outward in all directions. The birth of hope, the birth of redemption. I watched as the thread moved through his life, his miracles, his teachings, his love. Then, I saw it stretch to the cross. The moment the nails pierced his hands, the entire tapestry trembled. The light flickered, darkened, as if all creation held its breath. For a heartbeat, it seemed as though the pattern would unravel completely. But then, resurrection. The thread did not break. It became stronger, brighter. It spread across the earth, reaching not just through the past, but into the future. Then, something I had not expected. I saw my own thread. It was small, nearly invisible in the vastness of history. But as I followed it, I saw that it had always been there, woven among millions of others, connected in ways I had never imagined. I thought of my life, the days that felt insignificant, the moments of doubt, the times I had questioned if I mattered, and yet here it was. My story was part of something eternal. I turned to Jesus, tears welling in my eyes. "I never knew," I whispered. He smiled. "Few do." He let go of my hand, and in that instant, the vision faded. The ancient lands, the rivers of time, the golden threads of destiny, all of it disappeared, leaving only him and me, standing in the brilliance of his presence. "You have seen," he said. "Now, you must carry what you have learned." And with those words, the world around me began to shift again. The world around me trembled as the vision faded, leaving me standing in the overwhelming radiance of his presence. Though I was no longer seeing through the fabric of time, I could still feel the weight of what had been revealed. Every fiber of my being pulsed with understanding. Humanity was not lost, not abandoned. We were part of something so much bigger than we could ever comprehend. But why had he shown this to me? Jesus turned to me, his expression full of love yet solemn. "Rachel," he said, "you have seen the truth. Now, you must carry it back." A sense of urgency stirred within me. But why me? My voice was unsteady, laced with doubt. "I'm just ordinary. I've spent my life lost in my own distractions. I haven't been faithful the way I should have been. I'm not strong enough for this." His gaze pierced through me, not in condemnation, but in complete knowing. "You were never meant to be strong enough on your own. It is in your weakness that my strength is revealed." The words washed over me, sinking into every insecurity, every hidden fear I had carried for years. My failures, my doubts, my lack of faith. None of it disqualified me. If anything, it was the very reason I had been chosen. Jesus stretched out his hand again, and as I took it, a new vision unfolded before me. This time, it wasn't ancient lands or biblical events. It was the world as it is today. Cities bustling with life, millions of people going about their days, their faces filled with the weight of their own stories. Some smiled, but many more carried burdens, fear, pain, exhaustion. I saw families divided, friendships broken, nations in conflict. Hatred had seeped into the cracks of humanity, turning people against one another. Division, anger, loneliness. I could feel the heaviness of it pressing in like a thick fog. "Humanity has lost sight of the truth," Jesus said. "They have forgotten who they are, who they were created to be." He pointed and my eyes followed. I saw churches, some full of life and worship, others empty and abandoned. I saw people searching, some in prayer, others in the wrong places, trying to fill the void within them with things that could never satisfy. I saw those who had given up completely, drowning in despair. Then, among them, I saw something else. A spark. Small at first, flickering like a candle in the darkness. Then another, and another. Scattered across the world, tiny embers of light ignited, some barely noticeable, others burning brighter. They weren't perfect. Some were weak, some were nearly smothered by the surrounding darkness, but they were there. Hope. I looked at Jesus, realization dawning. "You're calling them back," I whispered. He nodded. "But many do not hear. Their hearts are heavy, distracted, filled with the noise of the world. That is why you must speak." My breath caught. "Me, you, and many others." His voice was steady, filled with certainty. "The time is coming when my people must rise. They must carry my truth, my love, to those who have forgotten. The world is searching, Rachel, but they do not know what they seek. You must remind them." I trembled, not with fear, but with the weight of it all. How? How can I possibly make a difference? He reached out, pressing his hand gently against my forehead, and in that moment a fire ignited within me. Not one of destruction, but of purpose. "You will not do this alone," he said. "I will be with you." As those words settled into my soul, the world around me began to shift again. The brilliance of eternity faded, and I felt myself being pulled away, back toward the world I had known. But I knew, with every part of me, that nothing would ever be the same again. A force beyond my comprehension pulled me backward, away from the radiance, away from the warmth of his presence. I wanted to stay. Everything in me longed to remain in that place, in that perfect peace. But I could feel it. Something calling me back. Something tethering me to the world I had left behind. "No," I whispered, panic rising in my chest. "Please don't let me go." Jesus stood before me, his eyes filled with infinite love, but also with certainty. "Rachel," he said gently, "it is not your time. You must return." Tears streamed down my face. "I don't want to go back." "I know. His voice carried a tenderness that cradled my sorrow. "But you have been chosen to carry what you have seen. There is work yet to be done." His words resonated within me, deep and undeniable. A part of me knew he was right. But another part, oh, how it ached at the thought of leaving this place, of stepping back into the burdens of the world. Then, as if sensing my hesitation, he took my hands in his once more. A surge of warmth filled me, not just comfort, but strength. "You will not be alone," he said. "I will be with you, always." The light around us shifted, growing softer, dimming at the edges. I felt my body, my real body, calling me back. A heaviness settled in, the weight of flesh and bone reattaching itself to my spirit. Then, like a thread being pulled through the fabric of reality, I was drawn away. The last thing I saw was his eyes, steady, unwavering, filled with love. And then everything went dark. A sharp gasp tore through my throat. Pain slammed into me like a tidal wave, rushing back all at once, the crushing ache in my chest, the searing sting of broken bones, the sterile scent of antiseptic burning my nostrils. I was back. Machines beeped frantically. I could hear voices, distant at first, then clearer, more frantic. My eyelids felt impossibly heavy, but I forced them open. The room swam into view, harsh fluorescent lights glaring down at me. Someone shouted my name, a rush of movement, hands gripping mine, warm and trembling. My husband's face came into focus, his eyes red-rimmed, disbelief and relief warring in his expression. "Rachel," he choked, squeezing my hand as if afraid I would slip away again. "Oh my God, you're awake." Tears burned in my eyes. I had been gone. I had seen beyond, and now I was here, back in a fragile, broken body, back in a world that felt so small compared to where I had been. The weight of what had happened settled over me. I had stood in eternity. I had walked with Jesus. And now I had to carry that truth into a world that would not understand. I had returned, but I was no longer the same. Waking up felt like stepping into a dream that no longer fit. My body ached, my mind swirled with confusion, and yet, deep inside me, something was undeniably different. I had crossed a threshold, one that few ever return from. I had seen the face of Jesus. I had walked in the glow of eternity, and I had been sent back with a mission. The days that followed were filled with a blur of doctors, tests, and stunned conversations. No one could explain how I had survived the crash. The medical team marveled at my recovery. By all logic, I should have died from the impact. And yet, there I was, breathing, alive, healed in ways that went beyond the physical. But how could I possibly explain what had happened? How could I put into words the things I had seen, the truths I had been given? The world I had returned to felt so loud, so chaotic, so far from the peace I had known in his presence. I looked at my husband, my children, their eyes filled with worry and love. I knew then that I had no choice. I had been given this second chance not to keep silent but to speak. So I began to tell my story. At first, only to my family, hesitant, unsure if they would believe. But the moment I spoke his name, the moment I described his presence, his words, his love, something changed. They listened, not just with their ears, but with their hearts. And then others came. Friends, church members, strangers who heard whispers of my testimony. Some came with skepticism, others with desperate hope. And as I spoke, I realized that this was why I had been sent back. Not just to share what I had seen, but to remind the world of what had always been true. Jesus is real. His love is real. His plan is unfolding even in the chaos, even in the darkness. And he is calling us back to him. The mission he gave me was not just mine. It belongs to all of us. To awaken, to see, to step beyond the distractions of this world and into the truth of who we were created to be. To live in love, to break down the divisions that have torn humanity apart. To prepare for what is to come. Because he is coming. And the time is shorter than we think. As I sit here now sharing this with you, I know that my life will never be the same. The world has not changed, but I have. I no longer walk in uncertainty, in fear. I walk with purpose, with fire in my heart, with the knowledge that the love of Jesus is the only thing that can heal what is broken. And now, I pass this to you. This is not just my story. This is an invitation to open your heart, to seek Him, to listen for His voice in the quiet places of your soul. Because I promise you, He is speaking. He has always been speaking. The question is, will you listen? My heart is full of gratitude that you have walked this journey with me. If this testimony has touched you, please subscribe, leave a like, and let me know in the comments, Amen, if you receive this message in your heart today. And don't stop here. What I have shared is just the beginning. There is more, so much more that will be revealed. Click on the next video appearing on your screen. It holds a message that I know will be glorious for your life. God bless you. Amen.